Welcome to TradingPub.com's morning report. Real quick before we get started, give you a standard risk disclaimer. As you know, when you start talking about futures and options products, there is substantial risk involved. We're not making any kind of recommendations here, just kind of going over some thoughts over some of the different markets that we watch throughout the week. Alright, here's a look at today. Obviously, we're seeing some pretty heavy selling in the S&Ps. Last week, we talked about a big level being that 1430 to 1433 area. We have taken that out. We took that out towards the end of last week, and now we're seeing continued selling. Now, the interesting thing today, two of the big stocks that really led the sell-off last week, you had Apple and Google. Apple actually is holding up fairly well. They've got an announcement this afternoon about a new product, which is expected to be the mini iPad. And then Google is another one. Google has kind of consolidated. If you remember from our video the day following Google earnings, we said you want to probably be careful jumping into Google. I know a lot of times people have a tendency after a big drop like that to just immediately think I'm going to buy it cheap, and if you did, you bought it around the 700, 710 area, and now we're trading down around 680. What we're looking for at Trading Pub for Google, we want to see a little bit of consolidation. We like the action that we're seeing today, the fact that Google's holding up in a down market. If we can see it sort of build a base here, then we know, okay, we've got some good support at this 670 level. Let it build some support, and then we'll look to get long maybe on a consolidation type breakout, or possibly take a put spread strategy where we'll look at maybe selling a put somewhere below that support level, whether it be 660, 650, or 640, and most likely spread it with a lower put, either a 10 or 20 strike spread, depending on how much premium we can bring in. But again, we'll probably start looking at strategies like that if Google holds this area and can stay above this 670, 680 area and consolidate and then start to move higher. Now, as far as the S&Ps go, this is really where it gets tricky. We haven't been to this area in quite some time. If you look back, the last time we were actually trading in this area was in September to August, and if you look at the daily chart, and there's a lot of different ways to find support and resistance. A very easy way that we like to use is just look at a daily chart and see where highs and lows take place. Now, if you look at this here, it's pretty easy to see there's pretty good support in the S&Ps around the 1393, 1394 area. So again, we'll look at that area as the next big area of support. If you look, we did have some resistance here at the 1416 to 1420 area, so that will now become our first resistance area that we look for to the top side. If we get a bounce, we'll look at that 16 to 20 area, and then obviously 1430 to 33, the big area we talked about last week that was support, will now officially be resistance. So that'll be big resistance to the upside. But again, we'll look at the next big support area at 1393, 1390 area, just based on this chart. And you can see the line here where we had several lows come in around this area, and then you also had these big rallies that stopped around the 1391 area. So that'll kind of be the market's next stop. Now, one thing to keep a close eye on are the bonds, and we talked about this last week as well, and you'll hear us continue to talk about this. If you're seeing a rally in the bonds, seeing a rally in the US dollar, that's going to put downward pressure on the equity markets. So again, things that we expect to move against the equity market are bonds and the US dollar. If the US equity markets start to improve, then obviously we'll be looking at some currencies like the Australian dollar, possibly the euro. Look at gold and silver. Now, gold has really come off a good bit, and you'll continue to see that more than likely as long as you see weakness in the equities. But if we get the S&P kind of bottoming out around support, around that 1393 area, we might take a look at gold for a potential bounce back to the 168, 170 area. So those are just a couple of the markets that we're looking at. Again, remember, we'll keep a close eye on Google. We've got Apple coming up. I was actually talking to another trader today who's looking at a credit spread, the weekly credit spread on Apple down at the 570, 560 area. If you're going to do a play like that, in our opinion, the best thing to do for risk management is to set a level based on the stock price and say, if we break this level, I'm getting out of the trade. And a pretty good level of support, obviously, to use for that might be the 600 to 610 area. So what you don't want to do is end up as big of a stock as Apple is, you don't want to end up having a short put at 570, long put at 560, and seeing it trade down to 570, because once it gets to that point, Apple can move $5 to $10 within literally a matter of minutes. So use something, give yourself some cushion if you're a premium seller, and kind of keep that in mind. So we've got a big week this week, and we look forward to having you at some of our events. What I'd like to do is just flash this up. These are Tony Laporta, who's one of our commentators, his numbers, and you can see Tony pointed out that 1392 area as well for the S&P. Tony actually published these Friday at the close, and his weekend commentary this weekend, he noted that he was looking for a sell-off in the S&P at least, and he said he thought we'd trade 1426 very soon, and obviously that happened, and we continued to sell. But Tony has had a big position in on the yen and has been absolutely killing it in the yen lately, and is kind of red hot. So if we get any updates from him, we'll definitely pass those along, and you can check his stuff out at tradingpub.com. We have our next big event this Thursday at the Trading Pub, and you can find all of our events by going to tradingpub.com, clicking on the events tab, and remember, we publish all of our recordings of the events under the free education tab, and you can select which markets you prefer to trade and look at recordings for those markets and access those on our website at tradingpub.com.